never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Good evening, CFNers. Always a pleasure to be in front of you guys, talking to you folks. It means the world to be able to do this, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun building community. It can be a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and the rewards are seeing you folks show up here every Monday. And hats off. I can't say enough. Again, you know, another year is almost gone by. I don't want to say the dreaded C word because it's not there yet. But for those who are looking forward to a break, it's coming. The big man in the red suit is going to make his way down the chimney and down from the North Pole and do some wondrous things for all of us. Looking forward to that. Some questions that are going to be coming up in the near future, things to think about. I'll leave it as a bit of a surprise, but let's just say we're going to be doing a trivia session with our three valued, and we can't thank them enough, panel guests. They're going to be coming on in the coming weeks. We have 2 more shows after this one. On the 25th, we will not be having a show, but we will be doing the Boxing Day Christina fundraiser draw on Boxing Day. So I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing all of you after Christmas, the day after Christmas. Again, that Monday is all of yours. Spend it with your family. It's how all of us would want it to be. Just spend it with your family. We appreciate you possibly wanting to see a show, but at the end of the day, family's really important. And you know what? As much as I love this family, we can do one Monday without, especially during the Christmas season. Richard, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Jeremy, always nice to see you. Big shout out to Steve Shaw. I can't say enough about this guy, and he's probably right now telling me to shut up, but you're going to accept this. Steve does some phenomenal work behind the scenes. I honestly can't thank this gent enough for all that he does to keep our community going, to keep the content rolling. But Steve and Walt, the two of you, I couldn't do this without you. So this is me saying thank you in a piss poor way, because I'd love to do it in a better way, but hold me to it, because I promise I will. Lloyd, always a pleasure to see you. Sonia, always nice to see you join us. You're a huge part of our community. Joe Moore's in the house. Happy to see you, as we are. James, we got to hook up this week, dude. We got to hook up this week. Those Tim Hortons cards are burning a hole in the glove box. Thanks again, Lloyd, for all of your sharing. Eve, pleasure to see you. Hey, Rod. Yeah, baby. Nice to see you as well. We got quite a few of you here. Holy smokes. Yeah. John, nice to see you as well. But I'm not that big. Dude, you're huge. You're huge, James. You're massive. Oh, stop it. Okay, well, that was a nice way of saying what I know exactly what you were saying behind the scene. Corey's in the house. Nice to see you. This is a new name. Shane, what's up, buddy? Sask boy here. Nice to see you. Great of you to join us. I know it's a little bit early. I hope it's warming up out in Saskatchewan. Lloyd, tell me, is it starting to warm up out there? I'm seeing all kinds of fluctuating temperatures. I was hoping to be able to live vicariously through you. I see Alex all the time out on the hard water. I don't know how busy Sask anglers right now are on the hard water, but I hope you are. Jay's in the house as well. Nice to see you. Okay. Unfortunately, Yvonne's not going to be able to join us tonight. She's busy with her grandson out in Quebec, so she feels horrible that she's not able to join us. But we have a really special guest that she basically handpicked. She was able to convince. I don't know how much money we owe her, but Teesa, and I forgot to do this before we went live. Orieux, give me a thumbs up. Where are you in the background? Teesa, is it Orieux? Did I get it right? Yes, I got it right. It's not often that happens, Tess. So thanks for that. But yeah, needless to say, we're going to owe her a truckload of whatever for her to come here, because she's going to be explaining what she received just recently as an Ottawa Saga angler, and I think it's pretty cool. It's awesome to see the next generation of anglers come into our industry, come into our community, and be a powerful, just a powerful entity, if you will. Tessa's come in and she's holding hardware already, so her destiny and her star is already on the rise. So we're looking forward to spending a little bit of time with her. Also, can't mention it enough. The Christina Kodalik fundraiser. I'd love to say that there is a massive update, but it's coming. We will announce a new prize this week if we get one more donation. If we get one more donation, we'll add another prize. So stay tuned for that. The prizes already are just through the roof, and I can't thank all the generous sponsors enough. We will be updating it, spending a little bit more time, because it's going to be Boxing Day before we know it. So stay tuned to the videos. Again, thanks to all those generous donations that we've received as prizes, as well as the funds to help supplement the remainder of Christina's funeral costs. Unfortunately, as if people don't know, we lost Christina a couple weeks back, and we're doing our very best to pay tribute to her in a way that I know she would love to have it done. So a $25 donation via e-transfer is all you need to do in order to enter. We are starting this week. It was nice to have folks to come by the show, because they capitalize. It only took $20 for them to sign up, and we had a bunch of you come by the booth at the Ultimate Ice Fishing Show. Thank you so much for that. Now, going forward, we're going to open it up so that you can have multiple names on eventually the wheel. So if you have given already multiple donations, your names will basically mirror that. If you came to the booth and there was a couple of you that handed $100 bills, your names will also show up multiple times. But if you want to give a second donation, or maybe you want to give a donation on behalf of somebody else, by all means, that's where you send it to scottiesoutdoors@gmail.com. And we're looking forward to getting this done on Boxing Day, because we've got some really cool prizes to hand out. Outside of that, I really don't have a lot of other stuff to say, because basically this whole show is about our guests. I will say this. I know Yvonne would want me to mention they had OWA had their Christmas gathering this past weekend. So a big shout out to OWA and all the members. And I will say it was awesome to see Chris McDougall at the Ultimate Ice Fishing Show, surrounded by all her OWA friends. It was just awesome. Chris, it was great to see you. Keep up the great work, and I tell you, our thoughts and prayers are with you. But this was their event this past week. We were going to talk to Yvonne about that, and we were also going to talk about this young lady who just received an award from the Ottawa Saga Anglers, and Tessa's going to tell us all about that, as well as significance of this fish, because this fish plays heavily into the significance of why she's holding that that trophy. And she's going to explain all that right after this word from our sponsor. What up, Teesa? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Never as good as you, but I keep trying, I'll tell you. And if I was any better, it'd probably be illegal. No, I'm kidding. Tess, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. It means the world seeing the next generation of anglers succeed like you are. There's a lot we want to get to know about you. When the post was made, Yvonne shared it, reached out to me and said, I just picked our next guest for ladies' night. I don't know a lot about you, so we're hoping to find out a lot more tonight, given the fact that we have a bunch of questions. But please introduce yourself. Tell us what town you live in, what you like doing outside of fishing, and maybe there's some school classmates that you want to say hello to.
Yeah. So I'm Teesa Orieux. I'm 12 years old and I live in Barrie. And out of fishing, I play rep soccer on the Barrie team. And
Nice.
yeah.
So are you an official member of the Nottawasaga Steelheaders?
You are now.
Well,
You
yeah,
are?
I guess so.
That's awesome. I got it. There's a whole bunch of people here that are saying hi to you, so I want to make sure that we get those out to you, so that at some point you can look back on this and see all those who showed up tonight to support you. But first and foremost, when it comes to angling, got to ask the it seems to be the inaugural question to just about anybody in the angling industry or community: who got you into fishing?
My dad.
And was there something about what he did? Was there something that you enjoyed particularly about fishing that sort of got you into it? Because I know as a kid, just being with my dad was the cool thing. But to
Yeah.
be able to get out in the outdoors and actually, hook a fish, and I don't know about your dad, but my dad didn't get super excited about a lot of things. But I remember, and I'll always remember when I was like 5, knee-high to a grasshopper, my first walleye. I'll never forget that because Dad stood up and said, "Don't lose that fish." I didn't know what it was, Tess. I had no idea what it was. All I knew is this guy here doesn't get too excited about anything. So this fish, and they called it pickerel back then. They still call it pickerel now. But anyway, that's what got me hooked into fishing. Have you got a similar story?
Well, like I guess because Dad, before me and my brother were born, he was always pretty big into fishing, and so I guess when I was born, he just kind of got me into fishing, and I enjoyed it very much. And yeah.
Now, I have to ask, obviously, because this plays a very significant role as to why you're here. So I'll get right to it. This is you holding the trophy,
Yeah.
and this is the significance of that trophy. Can you give us an explanation why you are smiling from ear to ear?
Well, that fish that I'm holding in the picture there, that was my second fish I ever caught by myself. Like, I hooked it by myself, or my first steelhead I ever caught by myself. I hooked it by myself, and then I reeled it in and everything. So yeah, and it was just, I was very proud of myself, and I was just super happy.
Well, you have every reason to be. And the Nottawasaga Steelheaders, they do a lot of great work along the Nottawasaga River, and we're so thankful for that. Have you also helped out with some riverbank cleanups or any other initiatives that the Nottawasaga Steelheaders do?
Yeah, me and my family, we do like tree planting and like garbage removal on the riverbanks and stuff. And then there's also like bank rehabilitation where we just like help the banks, I guess, so they don't disappear or whatever.
And are you seeing a lot of that? I'm not exactly sure what your favorite fish to target or where you do a lot of your angling. We'll get to all that, but your time on the river, whatever it is, whatever the capacity is, whether you're cleaning it up or you're fishing for steelhead, are you seeing a lot of change in the few years you've been on this planet when it comes to your river and where you fish?
Yeah, like sometimes, most of the time when me and Dad go fishing on the river, there's normally like beer cans on the ground or whatever, just from some guys that are fishing or whatever. And yeah, so we just always pick it up and put it in the bags or whatever and throw it out later.
Right
But
on.
there is like a little bit of a change. Like there's still decent amount of garbage that are on the side of the rivers, because it's probably never going to like end. But I've seen a little bit less, but there are still like a few beer cans that you'll see under trees and stuff.
Yeah. And on behalf of the anglers, I want to apologize, Tess. We got to do a better job. We try to educate anglers, when it comes to the ethics of proper angling, as well as just how to conduct yourself, when you're on the shore of whatever lake or water body that you're enjoying, that you're not tossing out garbage, that you're not making a mockery of the sport and representing us anglers badly, because we see enough of it. And Tessa, you've done it very well on how to approach it. But yes, we got to be better when it comes to the garbage. So let's get into your angling. Is steelhead your favorite fish to target?
Yeah.
And is it also your favorite fish to catch?
Yeah, because I like the challenge of catching it and like your adrenaline pumping. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And yeah, Richard, 100%. Take a kid fishing. Kids are the future. Yeah, I can't echo that enough. It's 100% the truth. Now, outside of this moment in particular, is there another proud moment that you have as an angler that you'd like to share? Because I know this is hard to top, this one.
Yeah. Well, that was the biggest fish I've ever caught in my whole life. And there was not really, like, sometimes when we go fishing, like I'll catch, when me and Dad went salmon fishing, we caught a few salmon. And but like I've never caught anything that was actually like as big as the fish that won me the tournament.
Well, you know what, Tess, when it comes to steelhead, you've got me beat. I don't know about the rest of our panel, but that would probably be as close to, if not a little bit bigger than my PB when it comes to steelhead. So congratulations on that. However, beating me is not an accomplishment. I'm just saying. Do you enjoy fishing with the family? Like, do you take your brother out fishing? Do you fish with friends?
Well, my brother's more of an indoor person.
Yep.
But me and my dad go fishing quite often. And there's a few kids in the neighborhood that like to go fishing with us. And one of my friends, he comes fishing with us quite often. And we go steelheading and stuff together. And so, yeah.
Cool. You know what? It's great getting out with, it's interesting because I've asked this question to a lot of people. I'll ask you too. It's not a judge. We're not judging you by how you answer this question, but do you prefer fishing with people or by yourself?
I prefer, like,
you can say both.
Yeah, I like both. It just depends who the person is.
It's so true. And this is why it's really important. And I hope you can help us out with this with some of the next gen anglers that are coming up the ranks. Just how to conduct yourself as a partner. If someone asks you to go fishing, here are some of the do's and don'ts. What is one pet peeve that bugs you when you bring someone fishing? You don't have to say who it is. What's one pet peeve that if you could change it, you'd do it?
I'd probably say if they talk a lot, because I like the silence and hearing the birds and like the water. It's very peaceful. And let's say if you bring somebody that likes to talk a lot, then it kind of gets annoying.
100%.
And yeah,
I have to ask because Chuck D just brought this up. Do you have an issue with bananas?
No.
There you go. There's the next gen of anglers. They don't buy into the superstition. You heard it here first. Tessa, I got to ask, I don't know if you said it in the beginning. How old are you?
I'm 12.
12 years old. 12
Yes.
years old, and you've managed to make these kind of accomplishments, not to mention take in what we value as the outdoors. Like you are literally voicing the same opinions about the outdoors as we have. And I've got 50 years on you. I won't say some of the other guys on the panel, but you got 50 years on me. That's awesome to hear come out of a 12-year-old. It means the world to know that it means that much to you. Identifying the garbage along the banks, understanding the importance of how to act while you're fishing, when you're asked to go fishing, and even when you're not fishing with anybody, just how to act on your own. I'm going to bring the rest of the panel in because there's a bunch of other questions that I want to get to you, but I also want to get to them as well. So it's going to be kind of cool listening to both your answers. We're going to do that right after a word from our sponsors. So don't go anywhere, Tess, okay?
Okay.
Right on.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
As Jim would say, boom shakalaka. Nice to have you back. Let me introduce you to the panel. Just below me is Jason Barnucz. Below him is the one and only Big Jim Mclaughlin, and of course, Lawrence Gunther from Lawrence Gunther Outdoors and Bluefish Radio at the bottom. Tess, I'm going to leave it up to the panel to ask the first question. Jay, you go ahead because I'm sure you've got one.
Oh, Tess. So, well, obviously you fished the Nottawasaga River, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you catch that fish on, and what is your favorite presentation for the Nottawasaga River?
I caught the fish on using row bags.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saving money to buy a center pin reel for just to fish with, because I don't have one yet because I just use a normal fishing rod. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Jim, what do you want to ask this budding star?
Oh, I've been thinking about a few things and I wasn't quite sure. But do you have anybody that's in school with you, around you, your friends that have the same interest in fishing you have, that you really like it?
Well, not really. Like a lot of my friends, like they're more not indoor people, but they're not very outdoorsy. Like my best friend, we went salmon fishing with her once, and she really enjoyed it. But not a lot of my friends fish. So yeah.
So you have to get rid of them quick.
Yeah. I've been trying. Yeah.
Atta girl. Do more of your friends enjoy being inside than outdoors?
Well, a lot of my friends are like more of athletic people, like they play sports and stuff.
Gotcha.
But some people do prefer to stay inside than being outdoors. So
Interesting. Lawrence, do you have a question for young Tess?
Yeah, first, I just want to say hello and say, hey, I'm super happy to hear that you also take, some responsibility in like stewarding your fishing environment and keeping it clean and keep an eye on things, the restoration of the shoreline and all the things you're doing. You're giving back, and that's so fantastic. Our charity, Bluefish Canada, we're all about educating and inspiring young people to take on those citizen science and stewardship roles. And you could be just a role model for that, for sure. That's fantastic. But my question is, I'm sure you've watched a lot of YouTube videos about fishing and other things. So what's on your bucket list for the next fish to catch?
Probably a walleye.
Yeah. Yeah, you're talking to Scotty's language now, but he loves walleye.
Yeah.
My heart goes through three sizes that. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
Happy that you didn't say pickerel.
Sorry, Tess, go ahead.
I would probably go for walleye but there's not really anywhere around where I live. So, but our family, we go camping quite often. So we always bring our rods. And we always go fishing there. And there's been a few times where there's walleye in the lake, but me and my dad have never had luck. Yeah. So, yeah.
Great. Well, we'll have to change that, Tess.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm going to go around the panel first, and then I'm going to ask you, Tess, because I'm going to let you gauge their answers before we get to you. Lawrence, your vast angling career, what was the best advice ever given to you?
Best advice ever given to me? Oh, I'll tell you the worst advice ever given to me. I was fishing with a pretty well-known bass champion, and we were fishing this tournament together. No names mentioned. It wasn't Jim. and halfway through the day, he asked me, he said, Lawrence, you having a good time? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, you're not working hard enough then. His advice, if you're having a good time fishing a tournament, you're not working hard enough. You gotta be pushing it so hard that it's not fun anymore. And I thought to myself, is that the kind of way I want to spend my rest of my fishing career? Like, and I used to do a lot of tournaments, and I maybe about 150 over a period of 10, 12, 14 years kind of thing, just the ones I was counting. And I realized, I'm planning my calendar every year around all these tournaments. And then I plan around the tournaments and the free fishing and all that, all the stuff I want to do. And I said, I'm doing all this backwards. So I let my sponsors know, I'm not doing tournaments anymore. I'm doing conservation stuff. So like it or lump it. And, they stopped buying. So there you go. Fishing industry is, plus for 2 thumbs up for conservation.
That's interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Lawrence, because I'll have to say, if you're not having fun angling, I don't know why do you do it? Jim, tell us, what was the best thing that was ever advised to you, or did you want to maybe jump in on that one?
Well, I could just jump in on that, and I could say, when I was fishing tournaments, I wasn't having any fun because I was trying to do it for a living. Feed my kids, put jeans on their bums, like whatever. And it changes it all. But you see, when you and I go fishing out the back here, I turn into a dickhead. I'm having fun. I don't care if I catch a fish. Like I noticed one of the little pieces of film you have of me, and that fish is jumping, and I say, well, I'm going to take him around the front of the boat. If he jumps and gets off, who cares? It's a 4.5 pound bass. Most guys would be falling out of the boat crying, and I didn't. If he gets off, and that's what it's all about. That's enjoying it. But when you're fishing in a tournament, I'd have been having a heart attack. They'd had to have the jumpers out there jump starting me if it would have got off, So it's just the way it is. But the way you're fishing, Teesa, it's all fun right now. And don't ever let anybody tell you it ain't different.
100%.
Jay, who's that funny looking guy behind you there? Tall guy?
Well, they've been listening to the show, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So Teesa, you said
there's a young girl here.
A lot of your friends are not into fishing, but into being athletic, right? Into sports.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce you to my 2 kids Trevor's a serious fish head, and Stephanie is not so much, but she loves fishing. So you guys introduce yourselves and tell them tell Tess how old you are and what do you want to say to her?
Oh, all right. Well, I'm in grade 11. I'm 16. I do a lot of steelheading right now. I'm right now in the works of filming a little mini series in some of the small creeks we have here. So that's awesome that you won that steelheading tournament for someone in grade 8. That's really cool. Good for you.
Thank you.
And then Stephanie, she's
I'm
also in grade 8.
and I am 13. I make bracelets. And that is also really great that you won that steelhead thing.
So they wanted to say congratulations, Teesa, for your big
you.
victory.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Steph, we got to ask, how
Oh,
did you
geez.
make out at the Christmas sale?
Oh,
I did really good, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right on. Well, you know what? That's the main thing. As long as you think you did well, then guess what? You did. Because at the end of the day, who's going to change that mind? Certainly not this guy.
so Teesa, if you need any advice from fellow young anglers instead of us old guys, feel free to reach out to either of these two anytime, and they're happy to talk fishing with you if you ever want to. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
Now, outside of these three, Tess, has there anyone that gave you some advice, gave you a tip, a trick, a technique, and it just clicked, and you said, you know what, I'm going to remember that till I die?
Well, one of the members of the Nottawasaga Steelheaders, Hal Grennan, he gave me a lot of tips and tricks, and they've helped a lot. And yeah, it's definitely gotten me more fish.
That's awesome. Now, as an angler, what is your greatest strength?
Probably like I have a pretty good patience. Like if it's something I'm interested in, then I have good patience. But if it's something I'm not interested in, want nothing to do with, then I don't have a lot of patience.
Yeah, I like what you said, Tess, about, chatty people, right? And, it's when you spend a whole day on a boat with someone and they just spend the whole day talking about their job and, their people they hate, their politics and on and on. You just want to kick them off the boat. Because you're right. You want to just focus on it. You're there. You're in that moment. You got to be in the moment. You got to be, focusing on the fishing and just get into it. I like that.
And also me and my dad, we always practice catch and release. We never keep fish on the Nottawasaga because they're trying to bring back the fish. And so we never keep fish from the Naughty. So
good stuff. That's so important. There's a time to harvest and there's a time to let them go, and the difference. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What would be your greatest strength, Lawrence?
Mine?
Yes.
Just to me, a fishing rod is just nothing but a fancy white cane, right? And I use my white cane to feel what's around me when I'm walking, and I don't have my dog with me. But fishing rods are just super expensive white canes with a fishing reel tied on one end and some guides. I mean, most anglers are using their fishing rod 95% of the time to feel what's going on down there, right? Feel the bottom, feel the bite, feel the way the lure is reacting. And so really, they're holding their fishing rod the same way I hold my white cane, and they're interpreting all that same information as I am, just, through the sense of touch. So I think I've got a little bit of an advantage because I don't get as distracted as some anglers do when they're looking around.
That's awesome. Great. Jim, I know you've got many, but can you pinpoint one that you're very proud of as your greatest strength?
I think being versatile. You see me when we fish together. I like to fish a lot of crankbaits and rattle baits and stuff like that. But a lot of the tournaments that we won, I know one thing that I always prided myself in, and not just tournaments, just have days when you have good catches and you're happy. I got to do a lot of different things. I didn't have to rely on one thing. Like if the fish weren't eating jigs, it didn't bother me. If they weren't eating topwaters, it didn't bother me. I'd just do something else and hopefully do it equally as well. And I think that's one of the the most important things. You might be the spinnerbait king on your lake, but if the fish ain't eating spinnerbaits, you're in trouble.
True enough.
And that's why you got to learn to do a lot of other things. I know you mentioned the Nottawasaga there a lot, Teesa. And when I was younger, like I'm talking like 50, 60 years ago, I had friends that used to go to the Nottawasaga, and it was like the destination to go in Ontario. If you went on a trip to fish for steelhead to the Nottawasaga, you were spinning around on the ground like Homer Simpson the night before. when you get there, and now, it's still good, but it's not anything like it used to be. And it's really nice to hear you talk about putting fish back in the water. It's so cool. It has to be, the average person today is so much a better angler, is so much better equipped than he was, even, or she, in the case there's a lot of, hey, I'll finish. I'll say, even more ladies. I noticed the other day in the analytics from all my Facebook stuff that my females had grown from 8.9 to 11.5.
Well, it's going to be an even 12 hours.
And it's not because I got a really good haircut or, something like that. I had a sharp done, It's just really, really cool. I think a lot of it is that there's just a lot more ladies fishing and young girls like yourself. I mean, every year, Scotty, you've been to my event out the back here. Every year it's young girls that win. Yeah. All the young boys are 13, 14. They're all standing there, the young girl. I got 53 fish. Look at me. I think it's awesome.
Hey, Tessa, just so you know who he's talking, Jim won, I think, 22 bass fishing tournaments in his career.
A lot more than that, Lawrence.
A lot more, well, 22 championships or something. Anyways, I remember you mentioning that number. And it just, like a few days ago, Muskies Canada just gave Jim a nod for being one of the leaders in the field of muskie catch and release fishing in Canada. He set that in motion with his advocacy.
Yeah, before Muskies Canada
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got so many phone calls about that.
Is that right?
Phoning me, you fish for muskies? I didn't know that. I told him, well, I started off fishing for walleyes, as Scotty knows.
I know, yep.
And then they told me you could get your picture in a magazine or the newspaper or something if you caught a muskie. So I took off muskie fishing. Then they told me you could win trucks and boats and things. So I took off bass fishing. I mean, it was
a natural progression. Yeah, it didn't weigh too much.
And I was lucky. I had a flag with lucky written on it.
100%. Jay, I got to ask you the same question. You have, like Jim, many great strengths. What's one that you're very proud of as an angler?
I think it's just I just love learning, man. The minute I get bored of fishing and I'm not learning anymore, I'm just going to stop doing it. I love learning as much as I can, whether it's a new technique or a new location or learning about a new bait, or even learning how to catch a new species that I haven't caught before, and all of that is just exciting to me. And if I wasn't able to do all those things, I think that I would just stop fishing, to be honest. And I think that's what I enjoy the most.
Great answer. Tess, I got a couple more questions for you. I know you're a busy gal. We're going to let you go because I'm sure you got homework and a bunch of other things to do. Is there one thing that you would like to improve, that when you get out of the water, you sometimes you kick yourself or you get down and you just wish you could do this one thing better? Have you got a weakness that really it sometimes can dictate the day?
Yeah.
You're like us. You have so many that not one comes to mind.
Yeah, like sometimes, like if me or Dad we go, like let's say bass fishing or something, and I catch just a little one or something, I don't get mad at myself, but I'm like, I could do better than that, and then I just want to go back there and just do better. And yeah.
That's good. Is there any advice that you can give if a young angler were to see this show or, maybe bump into you on the street and say, hey, by the way, you won that award. I've seen you, on social media. Is there any advice that you can give a young girl, young boy too, when it comes to getting into this industry, how to conduct yourself, some key points that you've learned along the way, or some things that you found that certainly helped when it came to putting yourself out there? Because it's not easy.
Yeah. I'd probably say to find a mentor or somebody that'll help you go through, because sometimes in fishing you go out and you don't catch a fish, but that's just how it works. And I probably never give up, because sometimes if you're going out and you're fishing for, let's say, 4 hours and you don't catch anything and you just want to go home, then just keep trying, because you never know if a fish is going to bite the other end. So Yeah.
Great advice. Holy smokes.
Wow. Wise beyond your years. You're fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yes,
you got it going
Hey,
on.
hey, Scotty, I got a question for Teesa.
Yeah.
Teesa, what's your dad's name?
Nick.
Nick, if you can hear us, man, good job, buddy.
Absolutely.
You gotta keep people fishing and keep young people fishing. So you saw my two kids, and one of my greatest accomplishments is they love fishing. So Nick, kudos to you, man. And thanks for letting us talk to Teesa tonight.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
Now, Tess, this is the obvious question, and Steve's asking, is your dad your biggest mentor?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. Now, you might want to hand him some Kleenex at this time because he might be emotional, and I totally get it. We appreciate that and encourage it here on CF. No, I'm just kidding. But in terms of mentoring, it's really important. And I just want to also pass along, and I'm sure Jim, Jay, and Lawrence will say it to you as well. Whether you like it or not, you have just become an ambassador to the angling community. And if there's any advice that we can give you as a whole, is keep doing what you're doing. At the end of the day, just as Jay said, you're on the right path. You certainly have seen what's wrong in the industry and some of the things that you'd love to see improve in the industry. But on behalf of us here at CFN, I can't thank you enough, Tess, for coming here tonight and sharing your time.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Right on. And we bid you farewell, but we know we're going to see you shortly. So thanks to Yvonne for setting this up. Nick, thanks for being the production manager behind the scenes and for doing such a great job with your daughter. Tess, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holidays, and hopefully you catch an even bigger steelhead than the last one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go.
you
There's
too.
lots
Thank
of
you.
steelheading left. Go steelheading and get some more for sure.
Yeah, we for sure will.
Good.
Right on.
Hey, Tess, be sure to get your dad to find me on Facebook and get me your address.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to light you up before Christmas. You watch the mailbox.
Oh boy.
Okay. Thanks.
Right on, Tess. You have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
All the best. Well, lads, encouraging. I'm
A little child.
dude. As I said before we went live, I was beginning to wonder who was going to run this interview. Very confident lady, young lady, but very sure of herself. And Jay, as you said, it all comes down to parenting. It really does, man. It has so much to do with what we just witnessed there. And to Nick, like you said, that's great parenting, both the mom and the dad in this situation.
It was so funny. As soon as Jay interjected, I knew what he was going to do. I got all excited.
True enough.
It's so cute, though. Eh? I'm going to fix her up big time.
I'm sure you will.
I'm thinking what's around here and whatever. I'll get her a reel and all kinds of stuff, and I'll hook her up big time.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, one of your weaknesses, Jim, is not having a big heart. As we all know, you've got one of those. But if there's a weakness, is there something that I know you're probably going to not be able to answer this question, but is there a weakness that you wish you could work more on, or something that you don't do normally that you'd like to try?
In fishing?
Yes.
Yeah. Electronics. You heard me say it?
Remember, this is a family show.
Yeah. You do it. No. You'll be like you remember the old Pepsi commercial years ago? Hey,
Yes.
like that at the A, Scotty?
Yes.
Lawrence is going there.
What?
If I start talking in a deep Italian voice, you're in trouble. Eh? I told that to Andy at the ice fishing show. Standing looking at me, he goes, "You're Italian?" That was before.
No weaknesses, Jim. You got nothing that you'd like to change, work on, or
electronics.
Electronics.
Oh boy, yeah.
Bar none. Because I didn't. When I got out of tournaments, I should have, but I didn't have to keep up with that. I didn't have to keep up with it, and it's something that I know now at this point in life I will never be as proficient with modern electronics as I'd want to be, but what did we do when we went fishing last time? How many fish did we catch? I don't know, 30, whatever.
Yeah,
didn't have electronics on the boat.
It's true. That is so. We made a point.
I have a few pictures that I sent the buddies just of me with a fish or something. They would ask. And a couple of guys mentioned I saw the mounts on the boat, but there was no units.
Yeah.
I said, oh, I just left them in the garage.
Oh, there's just the one unit in the back trying to steer the drone.
20
in that windstorm.
You see me filming with my hair trimmed on the side? It's where I ducked a little slow.
You know, it was so funny, guys. I would know he was getting worried, or you could hear the drone because he'd look up like it was a bird of prey.
Launching a drone on a boat, not that hard. Landing a drone on a boat, much harder.
Yeah. Well, the last landing was probably the last landing of the drone. No, I'm kidding.
I've got the scars to prove it. He just aimed it at my back. So that my back could fall into the boat and he'd pick it up. It was all good.
Oh.
When those things are coming in, I'm lying on the floor trying to get under the seat.
I can't see
I just hear them coming. And I'm like, oh no.
Jay, I'll ask you this question. If you had it all to do over again, and this could go back as far back as you can remember, or it could be as far back as last week, is there something that you've done that if you had to do it all over again, you would, and there'd be a certain way that you'd do it?
I don't think so, man. Like, I would say that, yeah, I don't know. I think about that sometimes, man. I spend, like, in my line of work, man, I get a ton of windshield time with my brain. So I spend a lot of time looking out truck windshields, driving down highways. A lot of it's by myself. So I got a lot of time to reflect on those kinds of things. And honestly, I don't think so. I think, like, I wish I had more time to go fishing, but who doesn't? Like, I think about that every day. You know, and I think because this year I fished a lot less than the last 2 years because of, like, when the pandemic was around, I fished way more. Now I'm kind of back to life's kind of back to normal, like literally. So not as much fishing as I'd like to. But yeah, I don't think I'd change it. Like if I had more time to fish, I wouldn't be doing some of the other cool things that I get to do. So yeah, it is what it is.
100%. I just threw that up there. Yeah. Where do you go? Where do you go with that?
You know what? I can't go one night without the old guy from the Muppets heckling from the balcony, right?
The two old guys. Yeah.
Oh, Lawrence, I have to ask you this question because I would say you're probably one of the more controversial on our panel when it comes to some of the topics that you bring up. So I'll say this. I'll ask you this question. What is one thing that we're doing well when it comes to Canadian angling?
Well, you know, you can read a lot of stories and reports about biodiversity loss. And I always take people, you know, those organizations that write those reports and release those reports and then try to raise money because the world's coming to an end and give us money so we can, you know, turn this around. I said, look, this is not Canada you're talking about. Canada is a gem in the world. And it bothers me to no end when these, you know, environmental groups write these horrific reports that reflect other parts of the world and then sell them across Canada as if this includes Canada as well. And yeah, we're not perfect. And we got a lot, you know, room to make up in regards to commercial fishing. I mean, we're only at 30% of our commercial fish stocks are being managed sustainably that we know of because we haven't really explored the other 70% yet using science. We've got to get on that. But in terms of recreational fishing, you know, maybe there's 6 million anglers who go fishing, you know, maybe, you know, it's hard to, no one really knows because we don't really count that well, but we have such a tremendous wealth of fishing opportunities across this country. And we're all being really careful that we don't ruin it. I think we're doing really well.
So I'll go right into the next question because I'm going to ask the three of you the same. On that point, what's something that we can do better right off the bat that you can think of? We need to do better at this.
Who you want to answer? Who you want the answer from?
You go first, Lawrence. You go first.
Me?
Yeah.
What's something we can do better?
Yeah.
I think we, you know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, fishing was promoted as a party. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having fun fishing. Like I said before, you know, you should be having fun fishing. That's important. If you weren't having fun, why would you go? but it can't just be fun, right? You have to be a little bit adult too, and you have to, take on responsibility. When you see something going wrong, you need to sort of, think, how can I fix this? What can I do to correct this? And not just, walk away, not just say, hey, it's not me. I'm just here for a good time, not a long time, blah, blah, blah. Right. You gotta give back. And I think you look at the Teesa and what she talks about, she understands that. She's 12 years old. She gets that already. There's a lot of people still have to learn that.
Amen, bro. And yeah, great analogy when it comes to Teesa. One thing I did want to mention, I put up a graphic here of you holding a $10,000 check. We've got an enclosed trailer, and it looks like a side-by-side. Tell us a little bit about this, Lawrence, because this is quite an accomplishment.
So we need to have a way of moving researchers and young people around our Bluefish Exploration Center and the various, research and fishing opportunities in that area, right? There's a lot of trails that lead to a lot of different areas that have totally different ecosystems. So we're not just looking at the one in front of us, the one lake in front of us, there's others to explore. So we needed a side-by-side that you could move a lot of people around with. And this one, it held 6 passengers. That's the biggest one I could find, is the 6-passenger one by Tracker. And so I approached the general manager. We were chatting at the Cabela's, and he said, Lawrence, you should apply. Cherry should apply for our Roundup to the Dollar fund. So I said I did, and I said, well, I didn't want to upset him because I wasn't going to use the money to buy anything from his store, right? I said, I want to use the money to buy a tracker. That's really, and you can like it or not, but you know what? He stepped up and he emptied the piggy bank and gave us that giant check for $10,000, and we rolled that into a fundraising campaign. We reached out to other donors because it wasn't enough to buy the machine. Mm-hmm. We had to come up with the rest of the money. And within 6 days, we had raised the rest of the money to buy that tracker and got a super sweet deal on that enclosed trailer from a local trailer manufacturer, sort of retailer here in the area. And so it just all lined up. It didn't happen overnight. Like, we put that application in August at the Cabela's, and it takes 2 or 3 months, and the application took 2 or 3 days to prepare. And so there's a lot of queuing up and stuff, but it just sort of boom, bam, boom came together. You got the check, we raised the money, we picked up the trailer, went it down to Toronto, and rolled that tracker into the back of that trailer, and done that. Check that one off the list of things to do. It was a big one.
That's awesome, buddy. Quite an accomplishment, and congratulations to you on that. And of course, all those who are going to benefit from it. Jim, we've been doing a segment together, much like this one, and it talks about the importance of where to cast, where to fish, and I'll let you describe what goes on here in the video.
Yeah, well, basically, you see a bunch of wood. You see there's 2 bunches of wood, one on the left, one on the right. And I see so many guys will go into something like that, and they look at it. Oh, the big bass is hiding in the middle. They fire a lure in the middle. They get it snagged. They catch a 1-pound bass. They get stuck. See, I fished the out. I see, it's all already into it a bit. So I'd already made a cast to the left. I make a cast to the right of that pile. And then you'll see me. I think I go over to the outside edge at the right.
Yep.
Or is this before we start?
No,
yeah, then I go over to the right. Here. But see, I'm on the outside once again, and boom, you catch a fish. So
I'll have to ask you this question, Jim, and I know it's happened a couple times, if not more. On cue like this, you've been in a lot of TV shows. How often did you cast and catch while the camera was running?
I don't think there's a show that I've done that I didn't do it.
Wow.
Yeah, I had one of the, when I used to do the Ultimate Fishing Show, I have a little patch of bulrushes that I fish, and in front of it, it's sand. And you never know when they're there. I used to think it was only cloudy days. Then I thought it was only sunny days. And I just realized that this is a spot that fish go to eat. It's like from here to the far side of the room, away from 8 feet of water and current. But where they're sitting there, the weeds are straight up. There's no current. And it's just it's, one of those places that fish move around in a river. And a lot of places you don't think are rivers are because they have movement. They move around and they go up onto these spots to eat. I think they sort of, I don't want to say that they know it's there and it would be like you go to the beer store, you know what I mean? You drive, you just turn in, you're going to the beer store. Yeah. But I think they just have things that they have things that are familiar to them, perhaps. I hate to think that, but because, I don't like to believe that fish really learn that much. It's one of those things I want to fight because eventually it would mean we wouldn't catch any because they get really smart. Mm-hmm. But it was just kind of a spot, and I went there with Steve, and I there's a little patch of sand, and I said to watch yourself back there. I'm going to put the motor down. And he says, "What do you mean?" Because this was before we had things to pro poles and whatever to hold you in the power poles, things to hold you in place. I got the motor down in the sand to hold me in place and dug it down really good. The boat was almost touching the bottom because I had the camera guy, the other guy from the TV show, and myself up front. So that kept us even with me up front. But I got the big motor down, and I told him, I said, "Okay," "when I start, you start, okay?" And I said, "Don't stop." And I have a 4-fish sequence, and it's the whole time of me casting, sticking them, swinging them in a boat, unhooking them, talking about them, throwing back in, and I catch 4 fish, and that whole period is like 16 minutes of uncut film, But the number of individual fish it's really easy to do at times. Yeah, it's really easy to do. I mean, sometimes I've gone to a stump or something 3 times in a day because I know I usually get a fish off it. So it looks, but I mean, you're still calling it. You're going, you had you went back to it. It's one of those things. I got to talk to you about something. I was talking to a buddy today. You saw me with these things last year, these little things by Clam called silkies. Yeah. Okay. Weeny little things. They come in where's the package? I got a few extra ones here. But they come 3 in a little package. You might find them in a couple of the shops, Toronto, Hamilton. I'm not really sure if they have that, but you can definitely get them online. And these little things are so cool to fish for a trailer. You can see all the little pieces of silk on them. So when that gets wet, it's just like a spider web waving at the back. It's real silk. Now I've seen guys, you can see there's a little piece of rubber right there that you stick the hook through. Yeah. And I've seen guys now, they're putting them on the treble hooks on their ice fishing spoons. Oh, wow. And I have another buddy who's taking a needle, putting it through, and then pulling it through, and he's attaching it at the top of his small spoons. So he'd get a teeny weeny little spoon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what this setup was, Jim. We're going to talk about it next week, but now that you're bringing it up, what do you call this presentation where you have a spoon and then a foot?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a name for it, Scotty.
Oh, okay. I just saw it in my timeline, and I can honestly say I've never seen that presentation.
See, there's a little spoon there. Yeah. See how small it is for crappies and panfish? Yeah. So you'd put it up at the top. See where the little ring comes out there? Mm-hmm. You just slide it over the top of that. I know some guys that they'll put them onto their line with a needle, and then they tie their knot and slide it down the line so it hangs over but it drapes over the top of the spoon and just looks like a little umbrella at the top. And I did it. I went and played with it in the swimming pool, and I just about fell in the pool. I wanted to go bite it. I couldn't believe how real it looked, what it is. But they're called silkies. I don't know. They're like $3 or $4. They're like $1 a piece or something. And they last forever, but it's something you got to get because they sold out last year. I had these left from last year. I only used them a couple of times, but you got to use them. The fish that guys are catching with them are it's absolutely incredible. I caught so many fish off the dock in the summertime with the pan fishing. Wow. Just with a little, like marmuska jig like that, and a little tungsten jig with that on the back, like I showed you, and just a flip float. And every time you cast it out, down it goes.
It's awesome. Great advice there, Jim.
Hey, I got to ask you a question. Look behind you there at all those little blue boxes behind you.
Yep.
I want you to go. Start at the top in the middle on the left. Okay.
Yep.
Go down 3 boxes.
Yep.
What's in there?
I'm all out, man. 4-aught. Where we? 4-aught flipping hook. I'm all out.
Okay. Add that to your order.
Yeah.
I'd be curious.
4, 3, 2.
I've been curious what's in all those little boxes.
Swing bait hooks, wide gaps, weedless, wackies, tube heads.
I got a few behind me over here. I don't know whether you can see them.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yes.
And I've given away I run out of stuff now for lure making. I don't order more, right? I sort of give them. In fact, I give them away to Tyler Russell, the Sid Fishes guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I give them to him. I left him a box at Gagnon's there on the night of Gussie being there. There had to be 30 of those blue containers that stack. He says, "Good, I can get them out of I can get some more of my stuff out of the bedroom. Now my wife will be impressed."
Well, I'll tell you, Jimmy, those silkies are great, man. I grabbed some last year from JD. Yeah, and they work really well. And because it's a smart design, because it's silk and it's really subtle in the water, right? So pan fishing and through the ice is all about subtlety. Like, and we've talked about this in the show, and we'll talk more about this through the winter, but like where we don't even want to move the bait, but because it's silk, compared to marabou, compared to feathers and other things, the silk is so subtle. Like it's just soft enough that you don't even have to move your rod, and just basically like your pulse causes that silk just to slowly undulate. Like it's a pretty smart design. It's pretty inventive. I'll give him that.
Gens came up with that.
Yeah.
Well, I know I saw a guy last year. I mentioned it to him at the Toronto Sportsman Show. It was a really interesting guy, and I talked to him for about a half an hour after I did my presentation. In fact, I brought him in the little room in the back there that Leo and Steve have for the drinks and lunch and whatever, and chairs and that. And I brought the guy there. We talked for about a half an hour, and he told me that he had been taking little bits of living rubber, like that would be off a spinnerbait or something, and putting them on. He said, I tied them on a little piece of tubing, so there's just about 6 or 8 of them. And he said, real fine ones. And he slides it up and down the line on top of his egg sacs for steelhead.
Yeah.
And he has a bobber stop to hold it down.
Yeah.
The egg sac has these 3 or 4 little legs around the outside of it. And I said to him, like, do you catch more or bigger, or is there anything? He says, I don't know, but I'm certainly still catching.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting, But he is using real eggs, and I think that's a good.
I'm going to ask then. F. Fisherman Geo was asking about presentations for late fall for brown trout. Would this be something, Jay, you would recommend?
I think if you're fishing for brown trout, or even this time of year, steelhead from shore, I think, and we see, we're bombarded with awesome images from Sonia fishing for shore all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And basically a variety of hardware works great. So, inline spinners, but even small crankbaits, small jerk baits, so long, slender baits, those work great. Spoons, like it's hard to beat a blue and chrome, blue and silver Clio, you know what I mean? Or even, I'm trying to think of what else, like even, I don't even have one here. Even some of the glow in the dark spoons work really well, and not just for brown trout and steelhead, but also for salmon. But we're kind of out of the salmon phase now.
What's the place in South America where they fish for the brown trout? It's real famous.
Patagonia.
Maybe there. I saw a guy hold a brown trout up from there the other day that had a blue and silver spoon in its mouth. Looks something like a Clio, like metallic blue on one half and just the chrome on the other.
Yeah,
it was a big one, like for not being a big lake fish. It was probably like 8-10 pounds.
Yeah,
it was like a big fish.
And also too, like you get back to roe, like I find a lot of anglers don't, if the weather's calm, so a lot of the fish like a bit of onshore wind to stir up the surface a bit. But on calmer days, even out in the Lake Ontario, like in a harbor, throwing a roe or a worm or even a pink worm under a slip float that works really, really well, especially when the water is really clear. So, yeah, Sonia's got a couple recommendations. Castmasters, Gibbs, like great recommendations. You really can't go wrong. A lot of it's just putting the time in, and that's what I tell a lot of anglers. You know, we learned this at the ice fishing show. This was probably the most common theme in all of the seminars, was you got to put the time in, especially when you're looking for, well, I'm going to say for larger fish, like the larger predatory fish, but I think for all fish, like if you want to find, whether it's big lake trout or big walleye or big crappie, you've got to put the time in. You have to go out and put the time in. You got to go through your zeros. You're going to go through some tough times of the day, but when you put it all together, it's so worthwhile. Yeah. A small stonefly nymph. One of my top secret weapons in my pack that I bring is I have a little fly container. Even though I'm float fishing with a center pin, I have a little fly box with a bunch of little hand-tied stonefly nymphs that sit in the bottom of the pack. But there's days where I'm sure the fish are there in that pool. They're not taking a bead. They're not hitting a roe. They're not hitting a worm. I've tried just about everything I could try, and I'm going to pull out those flies. A small stonefly. If the water's a bit off color, I'll even throw like a big woolly bugger fly with a pink head or an orange head. So there's, I think one thing with steelhead, we treat them too nice. They're predators. They'll chase just about anything, So there you go.
Yeah, I remember.
Trevor's giving away secrets. I can't believe it. Trevor's got more big salmonids, trout, cohos, and rainbows on a jig head with a gulp minnow. He will go into a log jam, guys, where you and I will all go to a log jam and go, there's fish in there. We can't get them out, like in a big creek or a small river. He doesn't settle for that. He goes in there, guys, with his steelhead rod and vertically jigs, just like he's flipping for a bass. He'll put a 3-inch gulp minnow on a jig head to get it out of a log jam. It's quite the thing to watch. I'm not crawling around log jams, but when you're 16, you can do that. So
that is a great tip from Father Nick, I will say.
Yeah, Nick, for sure. Egg sucking leech. Yeah.
That's it's not a secret. A lot of folks know about it, but if you are in the know, you know how deadly those can be. Jay, one thing I wanted to mention to you, we're going to get to Lawrence about what to bring out on the ice to make others experience joyful and full of fun. But here's something that when we're talking about hard water, we have our good buddy Enzo talking about the Lake Simcoe Power Box. We're going to eventually get Enzo on here to talk a lot more about the box and what it has to feature. But one of the things that you like, Jay, about dragging this around, tell us one of the features that you truly appreciate that Enzo's put together in these boxes.
Well, so one thing, just as a father, if you're going on a road trip somewhere, you can keep all your kids' electronics charged in the vehicle. So number one, not even a fishing related one, but for fishing related, especially ice fishing, we're set up in a shelter and we want to charge. Usually we're charging up like running cameras. We're running our GoPros. And the lights themselves. So we do a lot of fishing at night, Scotty. So we have LED lights in the shelter that I can run off that power box. But on the side of the power box, and I think Enzo will show it eventually in this video, is he'll show that there's 2 lights, bright LED lights he has on the side. And what we do is early in the morning, if a lot of ice anglers, we're going to get to the lake an hour or so before it's light out. And we will put the power box on the ground or on the back of the vehicle and shine those lights out so we can pack everything up till we get our headlamps on and stuff. Then we go out and then we're going to fish the whole day. But when the day's done, we're going to put the lights on the power box on again so we can pack everything up. That's honestly a great feature of that box. And what I learned too was if you're going to do those lights right there, if you're going to do an overnight trip, Scotty, into a sleeper hut or any kind of ice camping, get the power box, get yourself a lithium battery for it. And even Jim and I have talked about this, like the Vexlars are great because they will run. I can run a Vexlar for about 30 hours on a single charge, which is amazing.
That is
okay.
amazing.
But if you're doing an overnighter, like my FLX 28 on our last overnight trip, I ran out on the Sunday morning. So we fished all day Friday, all day Saturday, and Sunday morning around 9 o'clock, it died. And we have two FLX 28s. Our second one died about 2 hours later. Now, we ran it for over 20 hours, easily over 20 hours. So, but you can get attachments for any electronics to run them off of your power box. And I think this is where a lot of anglers are using them, Scotty, is they're running their electronics, especially like a Helix 7. The Helix 7 unit it'll draw about 0.7 amps per hour. And so that's a lot of juice. Yes. And so running it to a power box makes a lot of sense. And I think what you want to do is if you're a weekender and you don't want to have to charge it up on it every day after you fish, a power box with an 18 amp hour battery, which most 18 amp hours will fit in the Lake Simcoe power box in that footprint. That's what you want to do. And we use that in the kayaks too, actually. So we use it year round.
Great advice. Lawrence, unfortunately, I'm going to give you this a terrible topic to talk about, but as much as we're talking about the important things to bring out while we're ice fishing, when we do get ice, and of course, George has mentioned it is an El Nino year, so we may not get safe ice until later on in the winter, but as important as it is to bring the Cleos, or anything else that we're trying to attract fish with, it's also important to make sure that we bring out a garbage bag and take home our garbage. Lake of the Woods Tourism is reminding all those who visit up in the Lake of the Woods area to be mindful of that. And they're showing us a picture here of what looks to be a large ice shack that unfortunately didn't take all their garbage home with them. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of keeping the ice clean and how that might affect our fishing in the spring.
Well, there's also an access issue, right? Like if there's a fishing organization just outside Ottawa here on Petrie Island, and they probably have 150, 200 huts out there on the ice in a sort of a collection. And Jim, the Petrie Island Ice Fishermen's Association. Well, then, 2 or 3 high-rise condo buildings were built along the shore there. And the first thing the tenants of those condos discovered was the ugly mess that was left behind every spring by these ice fishers. And they actually came within a hair's breadth of having ice fishing banned on the ice because of the environmental, issues these guys were leaving behind. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call for the Petrie Island Ice Fishermen's Association that they needed to, get it together. And thankfully they did. They got they trained and educated everybody. They said, look, we're at risk of losing access to this part of the water here. We could be, it could be a no-go zone if we're not careful. So they got it together. It's still going on. The ice fishing is going on. It's well managed now. When the huts are removed, there's nothing left behind. Everything's cleaned up. They don't leave a mess. They're not, it's not a crazy place. I think we need to think about that in terms of access. You look what's happening in the United States with all the people boondocking in Bureau of Land Management public properties, and they're just leaving poop and garbage behind on these lands, and those properties are being shut down. They're being closed off to camping. We've got it lucky here in Canada. We can, it's such a huge country. You can go into a bush and leave a mess, and no one will ever find it for maybe weeks or days or years. But it is adding up, and it is being found. And whether or not people find it or not, just we got to think about what are people finding. Like people like Teesa, when they come along behind us and they see that mess, and they know she knows it's coming from adults, right? Beer cans and older people. What does she think about us?
I think that's really important for all four of us to bring up at this point, because at the end of the day, we want our legacy to be that we got people fishing, we got people interested in fishing, we got them engaged in fishing. In the case of you three, you've spread knowledge, you've inspired people to go fishing. The last thing I want to be known as a legacy is that it was our era that had this, that, and everything else shut down due to poor behavior, for lack of a better way of saying it. So yeah, again, when you hear Teesa speak so eloquently, and she really did so eloquently about things that she really likes about fishing and some of the things that she'd like to change. I hope the folks that are her age are listening, because I know, folks our age, they kind of tune us out, but hopefully if Teesa's able to spread that message, listen. Yeah, gents, I'm all done with questions. I can take some questions from the audience, from the comments, or is there anything that you guys like to add before we go?
Yeah, I was going to say there when they were talking about the brown trout, I had a guy come to me one day. It was a couple of years ago. It was maybe just before COVID. I still remember him. I talked to him once in a while. And he's got about 10 bags of Yamamoto 4-inch bubblegum Senkos. And I said to him, you're getting ready for the bass fishing season, eh? And he looks at me and he goes, bass? No, these are for trout. And I talked to a lot of my buddies that fish for steelhead and brown trout and stuff like that. And they look at me and go, yeah, we've used Senkos for years for that. They started off with the Berkeley power bait, those floating sherbet colored worms they had.
Yep.
Stuff like that. They just used to wacky rig them and chuck them out and let them float. And lo and behold, they just catch the heck out of brown trout and steelhead with them, like just loads of them. In fact, Matt Straw from the In Fisherman did a thing on that once. And it was all about, like all these giant brown trout he's caught, like they're 15, 18 pounds, and big slobs, and steelhead and everything else, all the places. And that Eric guy there that does all the guiding, I forget him. What's his last name? Hajda or something?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
He's a crackerjack fisherman and guide.
Does he ever catch big trout? Big fish in general, but big trout.
Ice fishing too, but I mean, he's a lot of times to see them pull up a wacky rig pink worm through a whole ice fish.
Hatcha, I believe is Hadija. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Thanks, Kevin, but that is his last name. I will say, who was it? George that brought up about.
I think he's Italian.
Northern, where is it? Northern walleye, Northern pike management. There it is. Pike, spoon, pike. No, it was in Lake of the Woods. Pike are way overpopulated, but somebody just before that said something about the need to improve. Yeah, this is what George. In Ontario, we need to think about better northern pike management.
Yeah,
not something we typically talk about. We do have a few hard water tournaments that are pike orientated that go on up in our North Country. I certainly never seem to have issues catching pike. I don't know about others. What's your take on this? Do you think? I mean, obviously coming from George, we need to. But what's your take on managing pike?
Well, everything can be cleaned out. You can, but I just think I'm sure George would know. Is there too many pike or not enough? I mean, hopefully he'll still be there and put up an ad.
It depends on the water body, really.
Yeah.
Right?
It's lake to lake, It's
well, the St. Lawrence is certainly having a pike. The pike population is dropping off, and there's very few young recruits coming into the river. It's just
I can't remember the last time, Lawrence, that I caught a pike like under about 6 pounds at 5-6 pounds.
Yeah,
in the St. Lawrence.
And it's because they're letting the wetlands dry out too soon, and we got all these crazy fluctuations in water levels, and they're trying to manage the Great Lakes by opening up the dams on the St. Lawrence, so the river's just roaring and it's low, and all the spawning habitats left high and dry, right? So that's what I think, anyways. But they have no proof yet that that's what's causing it. But it's you ask the anglers, they'll tell you.
Well, George is saying that it's not a problem with numbers. They're trying to produce big pike, and I don't know what the
right waters to do that, though.
Well, and an insatiable amount of food, I would imagine, too, in order to get these fish to get to the size. And of course, if you're managing pike because it's a top predator, you're kind of managing every species below it in the food chain, I would imagine, too. No,
I mean, when they've got like things like tullibes and stuff like that to feed on. And whitefish, they get really big. There's a lot of the lakes that we used to fish whitefish on years ago, and
Mhm.
it was not uncommon for us to have a pike, probably in excess of 20 pounds, try to eat one of them at the side of the boat. It happened like virtually every day that we fished for these fish. It would
Right.
happen when we fished them in open water.
Right.
And it's there wasn't a lot of them, but there was some that were huge. Like it didn't seem right that you would go to a little cottage lake above Kingston, catch 15, 20 whitefish each in the morning, and catch a 12-pound and see a 20-pound pike, or catch an 18-pound pike and see a couple more 15s chase.
Yeah.
The baits and things like that. Like, you're out there, they've got to have that cold water, they've got to have deep access, and they've got to have food. That's pretty well, the deal. And pike are really, they're when they get in their niche and they do it. That's why some of these lakes up north, like Stream North now, you see, when you go up there and fish for pike in those places, there isn't a lot of harvesting goes on, but you can tell that there isn't, because there's a lot of big fish.
Hmm.
They're not being taken out. They're allowed to grow as big as they can get. They're not being harvested.
Yeah.
That's
That's literally what George is saying. So,
Yeah.
Great advice, great answer. Gents, as always, it is a pleasure to spend every Monday with you, whether it's 10 minutes or 2 hours. We cherish every minute of it. Next week, we are thinking of having a trivia question, much like you would see on Jeopardy. I'm going to put some questions together. Maybe if we can get a template, if we can figure out a way to have the audience play along as well, we'll do that. But I look forward to
no
that.
steelhead questions.
No steel. So to you, Jim, to you, Lawrence, and of course you, Jay, and the entire Barnucz family, thanks so much for joining us every Monday as you do, and spreading kind words, positive words, and a lot of knowledge along the way.
Our pleasure, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Scotty. Yeah.
Always fun, guys. Be safe.
Right on. Well, that's it. That's our show. Folks, thanks so much for joining us. Again, to Teesa for showing up, and her dad, Nick, for being such a great mentor. We're going to see some wonderful things come from Teesa in the future, and we're looking forward to that. But thanks for spending some time with us tonight, Teesa, and just enlightening us on your take when it comes to angling here in Canada, Ontario, or along the Nottawasaga. To all the Nottawasaga steelheaders who also showed up to support Teesa, thanks to you. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing to that body of water and the fishing that it promotes and makes available to us anglers. So a big shout out to you folks. And of course, I can't mention it enough. Boxing Day is the last day that you're going to be able to buy your entry into the Christina Kodaluk fundraiser. We have a lot of great prizes. I did find the video while we're waiting, so I'm going to send you away with some of these generous donators. And if I didn't mention all of you, my apologies. We'll do a better job in the coming days. After that, guys, thanks so much to Yvonne for setting this up. Thanks for you for coming every Monday and tuning in and being as interactive as you are. Can't thank you enough. Steve, for all of the tagging and, of course, the links that you've added and just the general questions. Folks, I enjoy this. Love you all. You take care. Have yourself a great week. And remember, $25 into the Christina Fund at this email. Just e-transfer me 25 and you're going to be a part of the draw. We'll see you next week. All the best. Peace. Is the out of province prizes. Big shout out to Chuck D from Bait and Bite Me for their prize pack. Thanks, Chuck. We also have a mini Stanley Cup signed by the one and only Marcel Dion. Thanks, A-Rod from Mad Cam Plastics for your prize pack. And a big shout out to Shimano for offering up this Noski 2500 reel. Thanks to the Cabby Custom family and Robbie and the girls for putting this great prize pack together. To Ugly Boys Baits and the Downs family, thanks for your offering in this incredible prize pack. Big shout out to Big Jim for all the stuff that he's handed me over the years. We finally put a prize pack together, and we're looking forward to offering that up. So big shout out to Big Jim. James Meager from Meags Lures also has an extensive prize pack. Thanks again, James, for your generosity. And last but not least, we have Chris Yalowicka from Y'all-Eye Fish Lures. If you're a toothy critter, you gotta love your Y'all-Eye lures. Next up are our Ontario-based prizes, which include a day out on the water with Colin Stass and Mike Howard of Twisted Circle Chrome, Thanks, gents, for offering up your time. Really appreciate it. Brian Sturch of Burning Baits Guide Service has also offered up a day of targeting muskie. Captain Tyler Brooks of Slaunch Donkey. He's a multi-species angler, so we're not really sure what you're going to be targeting with Tyler. All I know is you're going to have a lot of fun. To our good friends Adam and Mishi from Fishing Fanatics, again, a great day out on the water with these two. Likely you're going to be targeting walleye, but could also be salmon. To our good buddy Sparkus from Sparkus Fishing Charters, he's offered up a day out on the water, which will likely be on St. Clair, either targeting walleye or smallies. And of course, the Fanatics Outdoor Adventures, who also will be targeting muskie. Thanks again to Jen and Scott for making this donation. And the grand prize, the Big Daddy, is from Camp McIntosh. And a big shout out to Andre and Tracy for their offering of a 2-night stay at Camp McIntosh targeting smallies, walleye,